the majority of people really aren't standing in their power. And they're certainly not standing up for what they believe in and what really lights their soul on fire. So collectively, this is a call to society, to everyone, really get in touch with what it is that lights you up. Stand up for yourself.
Welcome to the Frontline Warriors Club, where we live it, not in it. Join us on this mission as we raise consciousness. You can find us on wearefrontlinewarriors.com. Now, before the show, let's take a minute to inhale, exhale, and let the show begin.
In this episode, we would like to introduce you to Kelly Love. Kelly is a rewilding coach, guiding you back to the truth of what your soul came here to do, be, and express through the wisdom of the body. Kelly uses transformative psychosomatic bodywork to help achieve physical and emotional healing. Before we start the show, for anyone who wants to book a face analysis session with Kelly, use code Frontline Warrior Face 20. Or for anyone that wants to book a body analysis session, use code Frontline Warrior Body 20. Thank you, Kelly, for your time. Thank you for being here. Can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm really excited to be here. So a little bit about me. I am trained in what's called psychosomatic therapy, which is a fancy way of saying how to read the language of the body. And I've also been trained in different somatic healing arts. So basically learning how to use the body to heal the body, and then trauma release as well. And so I've combined all of these modalities to teach people how to hear the language of their body, which is really their soul communicating to them. So that way they can understand, what are the things that have shaped me? Why am I the person that I am right now? And how can I come into the fullness of who I am?
Does that also translate to, because this is more of like a internal search, right? That you're doing. Is this also something that you can use for like interrogation? Like, when I want to say, like, you come in and get arrested by the cops and they use like your body language on you. Is that also involved in that as well? Or is that something different?
Well, yeah, you could use this in an interrogation for sure. I mean, there's so much to body language. This is such a funny question. But there's so much to body language. It's our posture and our mannerisms. That's usually what most people think of when they think of body language. But it's so much more. It's, how are your bones actually formed? What are the misalignments? Are you leading with one side? What kind of languaging are you using? Even how your hair grows or the food that you're craving, the mental and emotional health states, every single one of these pieces are the body communicating what it's like living your particular human experience. So it's so much. But yeah, you could definitely interrogate some people.
So when it comes to psychosomatics, how does psychology play a role in the body? How does the effects from psychosomatics affect you, where you start creating these misalignments or different postures and misalignments in the body?
Yeah, so the meaning of psychosomatic, psyche is referring to the mind, and then somatic is referring to the body. So it's understanding the relationship between the body and mind, and how the lived experiences that we go through, the emotions we feel, the beliefs that we acquire through those experiences, they quite literally shape us to be who we are. So I often describe it as us being electrical beings, and we are responding to the stimulus around us. And after a while, that stimulus is going to affect like how we stand, how we hold ourselves, our emotional health state. And so it's learning to read how life has shaped a person. So for example, if somebody goes through, and usually it's within the first 1 to 7 years of your life that you receive most of your programming. So a lot of times I see people that haven't had really good relationships with their parents. And so after a while, you'll see a contraction in the heart chakra area, because this is feeling like, I've been reaching out for love so much and I'm not getting it. And now it's creating this protective stance. So that's a little bit of how life circumstances can shape you.
Does that also transition to maybe how your emotions and your thoughts affect your organs? Or is this just the physical part of your body, like your muscles, tissues, and like bones?
Yeah, great question. It definitely affects the organs as well. One of the things that I got to heal within myself were all sorts of gut issues that I had, as well as cleaning out my liver, which had been filled with so much anger. And when the liver is filled with anger, when it's filled with toxins, you can't absorb your nutrients as much, and you can't get rid of, what's clogging you up. So I had to heal. I got to heal from things like parasites and bacteria, candida, heavy metals. There was so much inside of me because of all the things that I had gone through that it ended up affecting the health of my guts.
So I've been reading about how organs store different energies, just like you mentioned, the liver and anger. So is that like meridian points where energy that's not expressed gets depressed and is being stored to a specific organ that's aligned with different emotions?
So I haven't been trained in meridian lines. Generally, what I'm looking at are, how are you standing? How are you holding yourself? I'm analyzing from the feet all the way up to the head. And then I'm also looking at the energy centers and seeing, is there a blockage there? Is there twisted up energy? Is there a loss of energy there? So that's what I'm reading. I haven't been trained in the meridian lines.
And when you're doing this, when you're looking at someone's physical body, are you asking them questions as well, or is it just the physical structure of their body that point to things that they're dealing with or working on?
It's a little bit of both. So anytime I work with somebody new, I definitely take an intake form. I like to get an idea of what their history is like. And inevitably, what we're going to see is that history coming alive on somebody's body. So they go hand in hand. And I do blind reads a lot. Some people don't fill out the intake form, and I do a blind read, and it's still accurate. It's so fascinating because it's a worldwide language. And I feel the reason why I was so excited to come onto this podcast is because we are the frontline warriors. And part of being able to be frontline warriors is seeing the truth. And body language for me has been this journey of discovering my deepest truth, which has allowed me to see the truth in other people and the truth outside of me. So, that's why I'm passionate about this work.
It's really cool. And what really comes to mind that you said that when we're talking about this is, I have a family member that has like a mental health issue, and this person doesn't work, but you could just look at them and seeing, even though the work this person does isn't physical, you could see that like somehow life took a toll on this person's body. And it looks like this person's been working in physical labor, doing manual work, but in reality they haven't. So it just shows you how much of a mental toll actually is on your physical body. So how does negative thoughts, sad emotions, how does that translate to the physical aspects of how you actually look?
Wow. It affects everything from the toes, like the way your toes grow, to the positioning of your feet, to the features on your face. So I'll give you an example of me. So I've been tuning into these collarbones for a while because they're quite bony. And yes, I did break a collarbone, but even this side is still really bony, and you can see that they pull back, right? Whereas I'm sure if we were to look at yours, your shoulder blades would be a lot more even. That's usually how it is for most men. So I've been feeling into, what is this energy that my body is communicating? And I went through a process recently where I cleaned out all my guts and my liver and my kidneys and other things. And through that experience, what was coming up for me was healing some mother wounds. And through that experience, what I realized was that I had been reaching for her love for all of my life. Like, would you just look at me? Would you see me? Would you acknowledge me? And realizing I didn't feel like I had gotten that for most of my life. So what I've been working on now is filling myself up. with love, acknowledging myself, and as well, intentionally placing myself in situations where people do acknowledge me and love me, and we build each other up. So in a way, it's learning to reparent myself. So this is one way where we can see the energy coming alive on a person's body and how it is the roadmap to discovering what it is the body is desiring to heal and how to get there.
So it almost sounds like that the body is the road to the subconscious mind to figure out what is the communication that your subconscious mind is telling you that's maybe hard to pick apart on your day-to-day mental processing because it goes so unconscious, or we're just so busy where we're not making time for it.
I would say it's a little bit of both. It definitely requires slowing down and being present with the messages of the body to understand what it is the body is asking for. And it is the result of the life that we've lived through. So if we take the time to read that roadmap, yes, we can absolutely understand why we are the way we are and how to unwind from it all. And just to give the audience a little bit of an idea, I went through decades of really heavy things, from my daughter dying to living with narcissistic parents to being raped as a baby. Very heavy things. And for decades, not understanding, how do I heal all of this? How do I calm down my nervous system long enough to be able to have, consistent relationships? And through the language of the body, I was able to essentially heal decades of trauma in about 3.5 years. It doesn't have to be a decades long process of learning to come into our power. We really can just get to the root of the problem if we listen to the soul, which is through the language of the body.
That's beautifully said. And I know that you did the body map analysis on me, so I'll speak about a point that I've noticed that's interesting is the left pectoral muscle it is lower than the right. And that kind of refers to my energy being drained out, exhausted, or not having the ability, the courage to uplift my own heart. And what resonated with me there is struggling with self-love a lot, right? Being raised by a ex-military father, communism was a very prevalent thing. We always received tough love. There was never a verbal exchange of emotion like, hey, you're doing a good job, you are enough. And it kind of reflects back to my personality, where I don't give that myself because I learned the same behavior from my father. So now I struggle with giving myself that same uplifting energy that I need to carry out my day. And this, looking at this body analysis or the language of the body, is just telling me, hey, I need to take time to cherish that part that's lacking technically, that's being shown on the 3D dimension of my body, right?
Absolutely. And you're definitely getting the language of the body. I would even say when we see muscles being lower than one side, we see a tiredness, right? Like an overextension. And so you are a very nurturing and open-hearted person. And at the same time, it's your soul is just saying, yeah, let's redirect some of that back to you. So you're definitely, and what's interesting, I feel like you'll remember this in our session. One of the things that we discovered was that oftentimes what we're lacking, that's what we end up attracting. And so one of the things that you had shared with someone that's in your life is that they happen to be a lot more emotionally expressed. And I found that fascinating, that what your soul found attractive was what your soul was desiring to wake up inside of you.
Yeah, so it's like you almost attract a partner that's something that's you're yearning for, and that's just, yeah, I do believe that because people don't come into your life by chance. So that's almost asking you, what do I need more of in my life? And that's that reflection that I can nurture in myself through that experience by understanding it. And that and also like the elbows that you mentioned. So like my elbows are turned a little bit more outward. And you said that's a history of giving your power away in a sense, or almost, how much more do I need to give in order to love myself? So that's You wrote that's the image of the young boy with your arms always asking for things, because I guess naturally your elbows should be flared inward, and if they're flared outward, you're always trying to please and ask for the attention that you're not giving yourself in a sense.
Yeah, and something that will bring some deeper understanding with this is where the elbows turn out. It actually starts in the shoulder. The shoulder is rotating outwards, which is causing the inside of the elbow to rotate outwards. So it's really this motion of, here you have some love, you have some love, right? Because the shoulders are connected to the heart chakra, and it's like sharing all this love instead of being filled up with love and inviting people into that experience. So it's inviting people from a place of abundance instead of giving out of lack. It's a completely different energetic feeling. And that's why when the elbows turn inwards, that's, the elbows are connected to the solar plexus. So that's the power being contained and shared, invited into, instead of giving it away and have nothing left for you. So that's how we read that language. And yeah, absolutely, you're right on.
That makes sense, because a lot of us, we talk about body language as far as like being confident or not looking like you're belittling yourself. So now we're just adding a layer deeper and just kind of connecting the energetics of our soul in this case, and see how that plays out, how you're giving or receiving energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things to note here is how easy it is to just move our bodies and like throw energy around, and how much concentration it takes to bring awareness to how we're using our body, how we're cultivating our power, and where we place our power. And this is the potency of body language too, because we're learning to bring the conscious awareness to every part of our body, to understand what's in alignment, what's out of alignment, how do I need to strengthen myself, how do I need to encourage myself. It is really learning to self-empower yourself, to rise into your soul's expression. And instead of just, giving the power away, I'm directing it here. And I feel like that's what everybody is really desiring. I feel like at our core, we all love power. We desire power. And to learn to be able to harness and direct it in alignment with our soul, wow, that's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, is this like universal? For example, if Matt's experiencing lower back pain and I'm experiencing lower back pain, are we dealing with a similar issue? Because I feel like, for example, a big part of society, they have lower back pains and shoulder pains. So then is a struggle very similar amongst ourselves if you have shoulder pain and back pain, or is it more you could say like individual driven?
So what I would say to that is it's both and. So first of all, when we see the majority of society having lower back pain and having shoulder pain and neck pain, well, that's caused by a spine being like this. So that is a sign of bending over backwards. And I would say the majority of people really aren't standing in their power. And they're certainly not standing up for what they believe in and what really lights their soul on fire. So collectively, this is a call to society, to everyone, really get in touch with what it is that lights you up. Stand up for yourself. And then with the shoulders, this is carrying too much on our shoulders. We weren't meant to work 8 hours a day and commute 2 hours a day and just have the leftovers of every day given to us, right? So society is feeling that burden. And it's so ingrained in us, like we're like these frogs boiling in hot water. We don't even realize we're in the boiling pot yet, that we've just become accustomed to it. And so instead of being honest with, oh my gosh, this feels terrible, our neck comes forward and we cut off that feeling from our heart chakra. Instead of expressing the truth of how we feel about carrying too much on our shoulders and bending over backwards to make everybody else feel good about how I'm showing up in life, right? We have, a lot of really diseased people walking around.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
It's a call from the collective soul.
Mm. Yeah, it makes sense. Even when like I think of the word like conform, like when you conform something that's maybe not in your values or something that you don't really want to do, it's like you shrivel up, like you turn into like a ball of like conformity because I don't know, sometimes you have to settle and be like, okay, it is what it is. But if you don't feel that you have an opinion or if you don't feel that what you say matters or if you don't feel that you matter, like you're down as a person and like you're mentally
Mm-hmm.
down and you physically go down. Your shoulders start to hunch over. You just feel like this little ball of just incompetence and of nothing. And it kind of makes sense why
Yeah.
it drags like this physically.
And think about too, when you meet somebody new and you're super excited about them, it's like your face lights up, you have an extra bounce in your step, your shoulders are open and wide, right? Like you're ready to face the world. That's the effect of our positive feelings on us as well. When we're taking the time to cultivate those things in our life, it really affects our energy, and then people are attracted to us, right? Everybody wants to hang out with a bright shining light walking down the street.
Yeah, true. And then how do you fix this though? Is this so? Let's say I'm a person that I'm hunched over. Is it a bi-directional system, or I have to learn to physically sit more straight up and mentally be more confident, or is it just like, hey, if I could just stand up straighter, it'll translate over to a better thinking pattern? Is it bi-directional, or is it just can you just work on one and the other one's automatically gonna fix itself?
It's definitely bi-directional. So we're a biofeedback system. We're just so like intricate and complex. So the human body is its own biofeedback system. So you can begin to manipulate your body by correcting the posture as well as strengthening the dissociated muscles. So if the circumstances of life have has formed you to be who you are, then that means that there are certain muscles and tendons and bones that are out of place. So it requires bringing conscious awareness to firing them, activating them, which means working out differently and walking differently. So when you do that, inevitably what is going to happen is the consciousness of whatever stories are in you are going to start letting go. And how this letting go looks is universe, God, however you want to say it, is going to be bringing you opportunities to repattern yourself. And so if you've had, this issue with carrying too much on your shoulders and saying yes to everybody else and caretaking for everybody else while your own heartfelt needs go unmet, then the practice for you would be, in addition to opening up the shoulders, say no more often. Make sure that you are fully filled up before you say yes to anyone else. And so then the universe starts bringing these opportunities, right? Maybe you had a really long work week and somebody comes and says, "Hey, can you help me move this weekend?" And you're thinking, "Man, I only have a day off and then I have another 12-hour day. I really can't." That would be standing up for yourself and loving yourself, right? Really feeling into your physical needs. And instead of adding another burden, saying, "No, I can't put that on my shoulders right now. I really need to take care of myself and rest."
And how does one drop into their body to understand the messages that the soul is talking to them or telling them?
Well, they can book a body reading with me or a face reading. It's an intelligible language. So this is what's so empowering about learning the body language is you can discern it from the feet all the way up to the head. Um, and so once you get this full body reading, it's taking the time to tune into one part. I like to advise people start with the feet, right? We build a house first with the foundation, then we put the rest of the house on there. So get in touch with your foundation, get in touch with your feet. What do your toes look like? What's your balance like on your feet? How are you landing? Because this is going to translate into how you step into the world, right? So, for example, a lot of people, when they're walking, they step on the outer edges of their feet. And this is a sign of caring too much about what the outer world thinks as you're stepping into the world. So, the invitation to that person would be to land with evenly displaced weight, not care so much about what the rest of the world thinks, and really be concerned about how do I feel about how I'm stepping out into the world? Does this feel good inside of me?
I love that analogy. And one thing I just thought about right now is I went to a chiropractor and I did the body scan. He's like, your feet are going in. Therefore, you need to wear these insoles. They're permanent, but you can change your posture. So now, since this is bi-directional, if I'm changing the way I'm presenting myself to the world, how I'm stepping into the world, can that posture improve itself without the insoles that I'm trying to purchase?
Yes. Um, if you are all right with this, I can speak into a little bit about what that body language means.
Let's do it.
All right. So, from what I remember from your photos, you actually had your thighs coming in together, and then the knees were coming in together, and the ankles were also collapsing, which was giving you flat feet, right? So, there's a lot of messages here. What happens when our legs are collapsing inwards? This is the body saying, "I don't feel safe. I don't feel grounded and secure." Coming from a communist background, there might be even some generational trauma in there of, am I going to have enough? Will I have a place to live? Will I be able to put food on the table? So this is root chakra, right? These are survival needs. So when we are focused on survival, when we don't feel secure and stable, then our energy is going to start collapsing. So that's why we see the legs starting to collapse in, because it feels like it needs to protect and hold on. Then what happens is the inside of the leg muscles shorten. So that's what's going to contribute to the ankles collapsing and then the feet becoming flat, because now the arch is collapsing. So all of these parts of the body are also connected to different chakra centers. So for example, the arches of your feet are connected to your solar plexus. So on some level, this is your body saying, I don't feel supported. I don't feel like there's anything under me. I'm flat, right? So then, and because it's your feet, it's speaking from foundation. So this would be an invitation from your soul to figure out what in my childhood made me feel like I wasn't going to be able to make it, or that I wasn't supported in life. And then you get to work on healing that, right? And then the knees are also the solar plexus. So when your legs start collapsing, the knees start turning inwards as well. So this is the body hiding, feeling protective. So this would be a message from your body saying, I don't feel safe showing the world my full power. I feel like I have to hide it on some level. And that is connected to the root chakra, right? Because when we are truly rooted and grounded in ourselves, then we feel the confidence to step out in our power. And so now you see how it circles back up to the root chakra with the hips being tight and wanting to let go of everything. So this is really an invitation for you to ground into who it is that Matt is. What really lights Matt's soul on fire, and how can I work up the confidence to step out into that?
Yeah, and that resonates. Not only are you going back to figuring out what happened in the past to fix that, but also into the present moment. Before the show, you guys were talking about how we live life in 3-month increments. We did a travel nurse contract. We're taking a break for 3 months. We're going to Thailand. There's potentially going to be no income. How is all that going to play out? These are thoughts that I had in the past week leading up to this new change. So it's funny how I'm technically feeling unsafe or not insecure. I'm feeling unsafe of what the next events in life are going to be. And this is just a great reminder to be like, hey, this is your default way of thinking. Change that consciously. Remember that default network mode? So just tell yourself that everything is going to be okay, and tell yourself that the budget is fine, and consciously change that so you're not technically producing the same energy that's continuously manifesting those same symptoms, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And on a physiological level too, it would be learning to put your hips in alignment and strengthen the muscles that were dissociated in the misaligned posture. So that's also what that does is, as you're using your muscles properly, then your knees are going to open. You're going to eventually lengthen those inner leg muscles, and then that is going to lift your arch up. So it all can be fixed, and it's listening to yourself on the physiological, emotional, psychological, and spiritual level.
And I know you also talked about the chakras that are on the body centers, but also on the face centers. So how does, I guess my question is, when you change things in real time, does it manifest in the body or does it manifest in the face first?
I would say the face is more responsive. So the body, it definitely takes a concerted effort to stretch muscles and re-engage muscles, right? With the face, it responds pretty quickly. And I actually did like a little case study on myself where I took several face splits over several months. And then I did one a few years later. And with each face split, I was talking about what was going on in my life and what I was shifting. And then we would take another face split, and you would see the consciousness of my face shift as I shifted how I was showing up in life. So, absolutely, it can manifest quickly within weeks.
I'm glad you brought up the face because I'm curious to ask because the face is something that you look at in the mirror, you brush your teeth, you see your face. You're on your phone, you see your face. So what are some facial features that people can maybe look at when they brush their teeth or look themselves in the face to pay attention to maybe help them figure out something that they're struggling with or just trying to just figure out themselves?
Yeah. So, our, I would say if someone is struggling or if somebody has been through a lot of heartache or feeling a lot of depression, what you're going to see in your face is the energy start to drain out. So you might begin to see different parts of your face start to sag or dissociate. Like, for example, when I was going through the whole situation with my mom and working through those healing opportunities, the left side of my mouth was like this. And what that communicates, the left side of the body is the feminine, it's the soul side, emotions, intuition. And obviously I was working through some mother wounds, and so this is just my soul expressing that sadness. And so if you see energy draining down like this, you can understand that there's something inside of you that you're feeling heavy hearted, depressed, need to express some grief over.
Okay, what about like
I mean,
maybe
I can go on more.
yeah, I'm just curious because sometimes my like one of my eyes twitches. Does that mean anything? I think it's my right one. That's my twitches. I'm not sure. I've always been told that that's like a lack of sleep that I'm maybe looking at a screen for too long. But I feel like I noticed it, so it's been happening quite a bit, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't notice it if it was happening once in a while, and I wouldn't have brought it up. So I'm curious as to that because like yeah, I understand that all our facial features are a little bit different, but maybe you could just a quick synopsis or a quick map of maybe like how you deal with emotions and how your face portrays it because people have wrinkles and I know wrinkles are natural, but maybe I understand that some of the people are more angry and they kind of frown more than they're happy, so they're more predisposed to getting wrinkles. Like just like the in the general, just like the whole facial thing would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, all of those are definitely ways to read the face. So, part of what I do when I do a face reading is I read the wrinkles. So, when they're smiling, how do the smile lines form? When they're angry, what kind of lines form on their face? And the lines mean things like, for example, you can see in between my eyebrows, like I have a really prominent vertical line right there and some curved lines, right?
Let me see if Matt has
And
it or
so
not.
Matt has some lines there. So for me, this single line right here tells me and tells anyone that I'm a driven person. When I set my mind to something, I'm going to get it done. However, I have like these curved lines in between my eyebrows. So anytime we see a curved line, it's lacking support, right? Instead of being strong, it's lacking support. So this would mean that historically, I haven't felt supported either from the masculine or the feminine in speaking my truth, which I would say is true for me, even though I'm very outspoken. It's been something that I've taught myself. It wasn't something that I was encouraged with growing up. But I have this book called Messages from the Body, Their Psychological Meaning, and there is eye twitching in here. Would you like to hear about it?
Yeah, let's get it. Shoot me straight.
All right. All right. So eye twitches in general, it means like you're anticipating an attack. So it represents a fear of the return of a kind of emotional or physical assault that they experienced as a child in their authoritarian or dysfunctional household. And then for the right eye, it means, duck. They're helplessly anticipating the return of the environmental assaults that they had as a child. So basically the same thing. So this could be just a message from your body. Like it's like a flinch, right? Like, something's coming at me, right? Is there something that you're nervous about? Is there something that you see that you're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle that? Are you analyzing it a lot?
Like a perceived threat.
Yeah, I should think about next time it happens. But yeah, because I just thought it was maybe lack of sleep or something. But it makes sense because it happens a lot in the hospital when I'm under in like a stressful situation, or sometimes it happens when I wake up from a nap in the hospital because I think I'm knowing I'm going back to work and it's going to be like stressful in some way. Yeah, next time it happens, I'll try to figure it out.
You just answered it right there, though. You said it happens when I have to go back into a stressful situation. So that's your body saying, what's coming at me? You understand you're going into that stressful situation. Your body's like,
And then how does the healing work there? I wanted to talk about healing in general, but for example, in this case with the eye twitching, so if your right eye is twitching because there's this fear of uncertainty, do you just reinforce yourself consciously by saying, it's okay, I'm safe, whatever happens, I'm still going to go home that day and sleep? How does that healing process work?
Well, it's going to be individual for each person. So I would say that, for nurses, they go through daily trauma. This isn't going to be something where you can just go home and give yourself a pep talk and everything's going to be okay, because you go right back into the traumatic situation the next day, right? So I would say that there's probably room to develop a practice, like a daily practice of affirming yourself, making sure you're getting good rest and showing up as alert as possible, repeating positive mantras to yourself, like, I am doing the best that I am able. I care for my patients with all my heart. If my patient still dies, I still did my best, right? Like reinforcing that it's not all on you. Because I feel like maybe that's what's really what nurses are really afraid of is, oh my gosh, if I don't get this right, I'm going to have somebody to answer to. Somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's heart is going to be broken.
I love that analogy, and that's something we want to get you back on to talk on the Couple Nurses podcast. Is yes, we feel as nurses that it's all of our fault. Whenever something happens with the patient, the case, we have the blame, even if it's an order, right? The doctor puts in an order and then you administer it, or you critically think through things. Everything kind of falls back on the nurse. Even labs, right? Lab says, well, let me just draw this 3 hours later. That gets missed. Doctor bitches at you. Lab was supposed to draw it, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the nurse. So we have so much stress from every single side, even patient's family, and it becomes hard. It becomes hard to manage all that and have the mental resilience to just say it's okay hour by hour or shift by shift.
Especially in healthcare, because what's crazy is, like, and you mentioned power, is like you have so much power in healthcare. Is there a blood pressure issue? Okay, we could give meds to bring it up or bring it back down. Is there a heart rate issue? Same thing. Bring it up, bring it back down. Breathing issue. That we have so much control that it's almost hard for us to comprehend the fact that we don't have control over everything. Because even when like a patient dies and I know they're going to die, they're in life care, everyone's aware, I still feel bad. I still feel like damn, I wish I would have done this. And even though that action would have not changed the situation, it's just that we're so programmed to have all this power is that we forget that we cannot control every situation. And not every situation needs our control. It's really hard for us to be content about things just happening, because you want to have some kind of influence over it.
So what does it create for you? Guilt? Shame? Like if you were to put it into a feeling or emotion?
It's almost like regret, because the fact that I know that the patient is gonna die, or maybe they did die, I always feel like maybe I could have done something to make their passing a little bit better. Maybe I should have gave that 2 guys of morphine a bit more time, but I didn't because I didn't have enough time. Just like little things like that, and I snap out of it. But it's just like, why am I thinking that way to begin with? Like I know everything I did was right, and it was basically as perfect as it could be. But there's always that something in the back of my mind. It's always like, you could have done a little bit extra of this. You could have done a little bit of this. You should have brought the family water. It's like these little things that really don't really matter, but you put all this thought and fixation to that nobody else does besides yourself. So Kelly, is there a common theme that you may be seeing with your clients or in your studies that people generally go through and struggle with?
Yeah. And before we get into that, what I was feeling with everything that you were just sharing about what you experience at end of life care, um, it almost feels like there's some room if you're open to reflection. Are you open to reflection?
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah.
I feel like there's some room to grow in making peace with the death and rebirth cycle and understanding like that is the natural process. And even in death, death is always fueling life. Like death isn't even really real, right? We understand everything is energy. And when this physical body is dead, my soul still has an energy. It still goes on. So it doesn't necessarily make the daily heartache go away. And perhaps there's just some medicine for you there.
Yeah, that, and also one thing that I noticed is with that whole trying to please people a little more is when I was younger, I always felt that I was not listened to, and I always tried to do more. I never felt good enough, so that's why I always reflect on that and regret. Even when I get out of the hospital, I reflect on my patients, and I always think like, I wish I would have been in a room more, because every time I do something, I feel like it's not enough. Because no one ever was content with what I'm doing. No one ever said like, what you did is enough. So that's why that's one of the biggest theme I struggled in work, was feeling that I did enough. Because every shift, especially as a new grad, I came home and I'm like, damn, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I could have done this, but I didn't feel like it. I had time for this, but I really didn't do it. I never feel like I did enough. That's one of the things, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because I feel like that goes right into the next question. And that is a theme that I see with a lot of people, is feeling like they aren't enough. And what is fascinating about humans is we learn through what's called mirror neurons. So within the first year of our life, pretty much all of our mirror neurons form. And it's basically, we learn by seeing what's outside of us, by having different experiences reflected back to us. And so what I hear when people say I'm not enough, is growing up in a home where you didn't get enough acknowledgement. And I would say that for the majority of adults living today, we didn't get enough. A lot of us were latchkey children, moms and dads working. And so we took care of ourselves, we took care of our siblings. And when we didn't do it right, I can speak for me, when I didn't do it right, I got in trouble for it. Instead of, hey, thank you so much for feeding your brother and sister, I realize you're not the mom or the dad, you're a kid, you should be having fun, right? So a lot of us did not grow up with affirmations. And so one of the things that I love to do for myself and love to challenge my clients with is doing positive mirror talk. So really taking the time to look yourself in the eyes, and I cry when I do this because eyes are our heart chakra. It's going directly to the heart of our soul. And so when you're looking yourself in your eyes, you're looking into the heart of your soul, and say the things you needed to hear. Or even as if it's just for that day, go over all the things you did when you were working in the ER with whatever patients you were working with. I remembered that extra saline. I remembered to order them that dessert. I remembered to bring their family water. Like, build yourself up. And then also give yourself those acknowledgments that you didn't get from your parents, right? One of the things that I wish I would have gotten from my parents is, I'm so proud of you. Wow, look what you have become. Look at how much you've changed. And as we start talking to ourselves like that, we're going to start attracting the people that speak that way to us as well. Or our alarm signals are going to go off when somebody comes talking out of alignment with love, and we're going to be like, nope, that is not for me. So then we begin to shift our reality, and it always starts within, right? We start shifting our own programming, becoming aware of it, becoming aware of where the root is, and actually giving our souls that medicine. We're not doing what is that, symptom management. We're going to the root causes.
Yeah, it's a very powerful point, because now when I'm reflecting, and I'm sure, Matt, same thing happened to you, is growing up, when you did something bad, you got punished. But when you did something good, nobody said anything, ever.
Yeah.
So it's like
right.
you never were satisfied, or like, I guess never got joy from doing anything good. And you always, when you were doing something, in the back of your mind, it was always like, okay, I better do good because I'm gonna get in trouble. It was never like, I'm gonna
Right.
do good and my mom's gonna give me something as a reward or something. It
And
was,
that's where people pleasing comes
yeah,
from.
you were doing things more out of fear than out of actual enjoyment, because
Yes.
you were doing something because you knew if you didn't do it, you're gonna get in trouble. Not you cleaned your room because your mom's gonna be like, good job, let's go do this. Let's go to brunch. It was, you gotta clean your room because you're getting your ass whooping. And it's like, I'm looking back at my childhood, and like
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind when you said that was my mom making me kneel on frozen peas and holding books above my head when I did something bad.
Oh my
That's the first that,
gosh.
yeah, when you said like, you get punished, I'm like, that's the first that came to my mind. And it's crazy because like when we're talking, that's the first thought I got. It wasn't a visualization of something happy, like getting breakfast with my parents. It was me being punished. So it's like, what does that tell you? Like, look how crazy of a focus I have on getting punished when I'm looking back at my childhood versus going to Wisconsin Dells. Like that came to mind first, me getting in trouble. Like, is that
Right.
crazy how that works?
And now in the conscious moment, are you creating the same punishment and hell in your own form to yourself? It's a
Right.
great question, because just like we're talking about self-worth here, maybe I have feeling worthy of myself. You feel like you're feeling worthy of this external environment in the hospital, but it's the same program that's running in the background. And again, it just goes back to, where can you give yourself that reassurance or whatever you need, right? Just like Kelly was talking, if Kelly's words were soothing to you, that you feel enough, you feel loved, that's just reassurance from the body that that's something you need to give yourself, whether it's daily or whatever the habit is slipping, and whatever you feel negative to, continues to giving that reinforcement. So beautifully said.
Yeah, it's like crazy because like no one in the world could make you as happy as you can make yourself. And the first step to that is actually knowing yourself, knowing what makes you happy.
Yes.
Because if you're going out for sushi every week because your friend loves sushi and you really love burgers, then like you're never ever getting that full enjoyment. You have to fully know yourself and how things make you feel, and to be honest about it, and not put so much thought into what other people are gonna think about you or what other people do. And that's like really what makes you content in life and satisfied with anything. You don't have to have $1,000,000. You don't have to have all this wealth to be happy. You just have to really know yourself, because when you really know yourself, you can make good of every situation. That's why Matt and I, we work in high stressful environments, and we come home and someone that we see stresses our friends, we don't care. Like it's not that big of a deal, really, because like we take advantage of the time that we have, and things that might be stressful to you, we're kind of content with it being the way it is.
Absolutely.
And Kelly, when it comes to habits that you've incorporated in your own life, when it comes to this healing journey, understanding the language of the body, what does the work look like for you? What do you enjoy doing? Is it meditation, journaling, going for walks? How are you filling up your own cup?
So I live, breathe body language. So the first thing I do is I'm consistently conscious about how I'm walking. I've completely shifted how I walk from heel toe, which is generally how people walk, to walking the psychosomatic way, which is keeping the body in alignment, and then walking in a way that's propelling me forward in life versus stopping me at every step. So that's one thing I practice. I do all of my workouts very slow, very intentional, and always in alignment. So a lot of people think I'm a yoga instructor or I practice yoga a lot. And I assure you, I don't. I only work out like maybe 20 to 30 minutes a day. And the point is when you work out in alignment, your muscles actually have to work harder. So you don't have to do as much because you're actually firing all the muscles, activating all the muscles that need to be activated. And how that is translating is me getting crystal clear about what I came here for and standing up for it. And I would say even the most recent experience with working through the healing the mother wound issues was doing what I'm doing even when my mom is not supportive, right? I feel like that is the ultimate learning to stand in our own power when our caregivers who are meant to encourage us and teach us how to walk in this world, when they're not there, a true sense of empowerment is learning how to do that for ourselves.
I'm curious. I know this is not necessarily body language, but what about, because I talk fast. This speech any part of what you do, or is just the physical body?
Oh yeah, speech is part of it. So if you're talking too fast, you are probably very highly analytical. You're thinking many, many steps ahead. You may not always be in the present moment, and it's like you probably have a high visual intake processing as well. And so you're just taking all this information. You just want to fire it out, and it's almost like your tongue can't even keep up with all the ways that your mind is working right now. Does that feel true?
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel all the time. Exactly how I feel all the time. Yeah.
I always tell Peter like he needs to drop down more into his body. I think we had a guest or coach, and she was talking about like the mind, the gut, and the heart. Like Pete's way too up in the mind. I'm more balanced, but in the heart. So it's like I always tell Peter, you just need to drop down into your heart and just like feel your body, I guess. But we're very complementary because I'm way too heart, he's way too mind. So
are you open to a body language reflection?
Yeah, I'll be down.
Okay.
Yeah, because
All
I
right.
also did like some research on why I also talk fast and stuff like that. And the stuff that I looked into, you're completely right on what you said. This is an addition to it. Yeah, because I just like take on so much, and I have so much thoughts about everything, and it like all has to come out at the same time. So it is what it is. But also, one of the things I noticed is that probably at some point in my life is either, I don't know, maybe in school or my family, I probably didn't have enough time to spend with people. So I probably felt the need to get everything out quickly because I'm not sure when I'm going to see them next or how long I'm going to see them for. So that's another one of those things I have to work on is that understanding that just because we're having this conversation now doesn't mean that I'm not going to see you later. Like I tried to get it all out at once just in case I don't ever see you again. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where my childhood thing kind of stemmed from. I'm not sure that's from my parents because they used to work full time, so I didn't get to see them a lot. So I would probably just like go on tangents and then I'd see them again for a little bit. So that probably stems into that as well, besides the whole thinking about everything.
Yeah, it sounds so. One of the things I notice is your chin comes back a little bit like this. So when we see someone with what's called a receding chin, where it's coming back from the nose line like that, this is your root chakra on your face. So this is someone who hasn't felt fully grounded, like all of your basic needs aren't being met. So just hearing you talk about your past and not being around your parents a lot, being raised as like one of those latchkey kids, right? That's that young boy inside saying, am I going to be emotionally taken care of? Am I going to get all of my needs met? And so for you, that would be, I would consider, what are your friends like? You know, being around people that are able to give you the spaciousness for you to really, like go deep with them, right? Because I feel like that's what you're really desiring with all these thoughts and all these things that you're desiring to express. You're really desiring to go deep with people, which means spaciousness, right? So finding those friends that are able to give that to you.
Yeah, and also means vulnerability, right? Being okay with wearing your heart on your sleeve and sharing things that are personal to you. And also, like, if I'm just tying the root chakra into this, when you express yourself, sometimes we have the fear of maybe not being heard, but also being judged. So then also accepting yourself, whatever you put out to the world will not matter what somebody else says because it's the reality that I'm experiencing, right? It's like if somebody says, I feel this way about a situation. They say, well, I did this. That's okay, but acknowledge my feelings of this is how I feel. Because feelings aren't invalid. It's just a story that you told yourself.
Right. And it's also, I prefer listening than talking too. Because I don't really know why, but I guess a little bit I know why. Because sometimes I feel that people's emotions or feelings are worth more than mine. That's why I think I listen more than talk, because it's like, well, I'm going through this and it is what it is. But I find it more interesting to hear about what other people are going through. And then it kind of helps me figure out my own shit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like that's that young boy again who didn't get enough acknowledgement from his parents. And so what you're doing is you're playing it safe. I'll just listen, because what if they don't want to hear anyways? What if they don't have time to hear? So really, through all the examples that you shared, what I'm hearing is there's a lot to heal around not getting that time and that validation that you needed from your parents.
Man, you need to validate me every day. Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Good breakfast, man. Good coffee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. See, I feel better already.
Kelly, one question I'd like to ask towards the end with all of our guests. So if you had one last chance to share a piece of advice with the world, what would it be?
It would be what I heard when I started my healing journey. And it is get in touch with your body and your nature, because this is where your power is at. And we are in a time and age where it's either going to be us continuing to outsource our power and see the corruption of what happens when we outsource our power, or we come into learning to own it, cultivate it, and express it. And that happens when we understand how we function physiologically, psychologically. So getting in touch with our body and nature.
Okay, super cool.
We need more soulful people.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then Kelly, where can people find you if they want to talk to you or look you up?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Kelly Love Rewilding. My website is the same, kellyloverewilding.com. My link tree is in my Instagram bio. So if you want to book a Discover You session or learn about offerings I have, you can check it out there. And we are going to be doing a 10% discount on any of the body reading packages. So full face reading, full body reading, or the one-on-one coaching container. So I'll give you that code afterwards, Matt.
Perfect. Kelly, we just want to acknowledge you for your knowledge that you brought to the show, sharing about the soul, the body language of how important it is. So many of us don't even understand this language of how we could align ourselves to our full potential by aligning to what the soul is saying based on our body language. So thank you for that. And we'll have you back on as a guest.
Thank you so much. I am truly honored to be sharing this. And last thing I'll say, this language has been around for a while. We're just becoming aware of it again. So I'm excited to see more people stepping into it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and want to support the podcast,
please subscribe, leave us a comment, or give us a like on all platforms.
We are Frontline Warriors.